Is here with us once again. Wheaton's Congressman Peter Roskam. Oh, Congressman, some of your colleagues fear the local Republican Party faces a very dismal decade ahead.
Well, the seeds of this were planted, I think, back in the loss by Bill Brady of the governor's mansion and the ability of the Democratic Party to completely dominate the Illinois redistricting process. They set about to undo the results of the 2010 congressional elections, and they did it largely through redistricting and drawing these district lines to their advantage.
The U.S. Supreme Court has signed off on the map.
No question.
It's there for the decade.
Right.
You're not going to undo that. The only hope is to elect a governor in 2014.
Right. So I think the smart move on the part of the Illinois GOP is to figure out who a single nominee would be for governor to avoid
your colleague Aaron
What
Schock,
names are out there?
Well, there's a lot of names that are out there.
Your colleague Aaron Schock sat here a few weeks ago and said he wants to run, and he's going to make some announcements and moves in January.
He's in the mix. Senator Kirk Dillard from Hinsdale is in the mix.
Is that who you like?
No, I mean, look, all these guys are friends of mine. Let's see how good they are.
Yeah, you're just giving us the names right now, huh?
That's right.
So
I think
Joe Walsh says he wants to run. He says he'll absolutely veto any extension of that 67% Illinois income tax increase.
And I think that deeply resonates with a lot of people who look at the state of Illinois now from an economic point of view, and they say, well, the state raised taxes, still has $9 billion of unpaid bills, has more per capita debt than any state in the union.
A lot of people may not know that income tax increase, Darlene, expires after 2014.
Yeah, that's right. So
unless it's extended.
Look, we live in a great state in that it is incredibly dynamic. We've got a lot of bright people, but we are losing a competitive edge as it relates to other states around us that are doing a better job recruiting and retaining businesses.
So how do you take care of business? What's the first order of business there?
Well, I think from a Republican point of view, the first order of business is to get around a single nominee and avoid a big primary and put all of your eggs in that basket for governor. And then the second thing is to continue to evaluate these suburban congressional districts. And I don't think in 2014 you're going to see the big Obama turnout. So there's some opportunities, and I think what we've got to do, meanwhile, back in having a House majority in Washington, is to do right, follow through on the themes that we campaigned on.
Speaking of President Obama.
Are you surprised? Let's talk about Tuesday night, what happened there. The Republicans have been talking about it's time to just shake things up, break things down, and just rebuild.
I was surprised. I thought the momentum was on behalf of Romney and Ryan. I thought that they were going to win. And so on Tuesday night, I was surprised that the president was reelected. Now, that being said, the country made their choice, and let's move on.
The president says that he is not going to go along with what Speaker Boehner wants to do, which is to renew all the Bush tax cuts.
The president has said a lot of things. The president said we were going to get out of Guantanamo. The president said he was going to pass comprehensive immigration reform in the first year, that he was going to go through the federal budget line by line, and that he was going to cut the deficits in half. I think the president's language last month was largely pitching to the base of his party. I think he was using different language this week as he was beginning to describe these things. And what I think the smart move is, look, let's extend the current rates for a year, and let's use that as a bridge to tax reform.
Now, the president on Friday seemed to rule that out. He says he's going to veto that.
Anything that hits its desk.
No, I don't think that's what he was saying. I think he's left an opening, and I think that he was very careful in his use of the language. Look, Harry Reid was able to...
He didn't say the 250 cap again, but he did say upper income.
Up to.
But extending them across the board for everybody, he indicated, I thought he indicated pretty clearly he was going to veto that.
Look, that's the president's current position, but the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior.
Did you play poker with him there in the above Maldeners when you were in Springfield?
President Obama signed the extension 2 years ago. So if he did it once, I think he's got the capacity to do it again, because the alternative is to go over a fiscal cliff, which would be very, very harsh for our
Tuesday night, we kept hearing from the president talking about trying to reach across the aisle, work with both sides. The word there, compromise, bipartisan, we kept hearing that over and over again. What is it going to take to get both sides to work together on this so that nobody goes over that cliff?
Yeah, I think what's important is for the president to lead his party and to say we're not going to go over the fiscal cliff. There were some leading Democrats, Patty Murray from Washington State, a senator.
They say it's not really a cliff. They say it's sort of a sand dune, sort of a slope.
It's not. I mean, it's a double-dip recession for sure. It is a draconian kind of policy that we need to avoid.
Their argument is we can deal with it in January, February, let the rates go up, and then have the Obama tax cuts be proposed, and kind of dare, for everybody under $250,000, and dare you Republicans to vote against it.
I think that's a bucket of crazy. I think that it is so thoughtless, and the Congressional Budget Office has said, look, if you do this, you're going to have a double dip recession. Our economy is struggling at 1%, maybe 2% growth. We can't afford to go this route. And I think what the Speaker did earlier this week was lay out a pathway. Look, Mr. President, if you want more revenues to come into the federal government, we can get you more revenues, but here's how we propose to do it, through growth and through tax reform.
Let me just read something to you out of Bloomberg's this week. It says, going over the cliff would also weaken the Republicans' greatest point of leverage, renewing their threat to default on the national debt.
Well, defaulting on the national debt is nothing to celebrate or to do, but the only thing that makes less sense is to just continue willy-nilly on this spending. Look, we've got $16 trillion in debt in our country. We are projected to have $20 trillion in debt. We are walking into a debt crisis unless we deal with it.
Let me ask you this, Congressman. For people who are sitting at home not making more than $100,000 in their household, they keep hearing about this fiscal cliff. What does this do for them? What are they saying? I mean, I don't make that much, but I'm hurting in my household.
Every tax rate, if we go over the fiscal cliff, Darlene, what that means is every single tax rate, with the exception of one tax rate, the 15% rate, they all go up. Capital gains, all goes up.
They dividends, go back to the 1990s.
All goes up.
So nobody can sit at home and say, that's not my problem.
That's right. It's all of our problems. And we better figure this thing out. And we've got a collapsing period of time. I think the good news is that the language that you're hearing coming from Speaker Boehner, the language that you're hearing from the President is language that you can begin to find some common ground.
All right, real quick, comprehensive immigration reform, is Speaker Boehner, you're part of his leadership team. Yes or no?
I don't think that's likely to happen. I think what you're going to see is a great deal of energy focused in on jobs and economic growth, and I think that's where the most folks in the country really want us to concentrate.
All right.
Great Tuesday for you, too.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you for coming in with us. We appreciate it. Good to see you. Still ahead this morning on Fox Chicago Sunday.